So, now I am doing SU2. So, I take this combination, this anyway we did, it is anyway associative, it does not really matter. Let us take the bound state of 3 spin half particles. Okay. So, in dimensions it is 2, this is 2 dimensional, this is 2 dimensional, and then another 2 dimensional. So, this part we have already done there, the first bracket. The first bracket turns out to be this, and then you take it with a box, because I am going to look at a composite made of 3 fundamental objects, with hindsight that it should not give me anything other than spin 3 by 2 or spin half, that is the experimental requirement. Okay. So, now you can redo this. So, you can combine with this box a single box along with this, then this box can go below, not violating any symmetry. So, let me write that. Okay. That is from the first box multiplying this one. Similarly, I should do it with this. The box can go below and it can also be, can just attach itself to this without violating the symmetries. You do not violate any of the symmetries by putting this below and doing. Because you are doing SU2 spin half particles, the group is SU2, the fundamental objects. If you put an up spin here, you have to put a down spin, then you cannot repeat anything because this is totally antisymmetric. So, that is why I said always a vertical diagram with more than 2 boxes is not allowed in SU2. So, this is not allowed in SU2 diagrams as if it is, this is for this and similarly here. Okay. So, I have shown you that a composite bound state involving 3 spin half particles finally for the SU2 can be drawn as this is true in general. For SU2 it will be okay. So, that you can say it to be for SU3 if you want. Single box is repeating, where is it repeating? This one? Down? Yeah, good. So, that is a good point. This single box indirectly has an information that there are 3 spin half particles which are composed to give you a spin half, right. You can do it in 2 ways. You can make, so it is 3 objects, right. So, this one I would say that it is actually going to be spin of particle 1, and then you can have spin of particle 2 and spin of particle 3, to have some symmetric combination. Here you can have, so you can call it spin 1, okay. So there is some mixing where the 2 spins you take a symmetric combination and multiply with the third spin. Here you do antisymmetric combination. The square bracket means antisymmetric combination. So there are 2 possibilities exist. When you are combining 3 spins, you can have some different symmetry, like this one is totally symmetric in all the 3 spins, and this one has some mixed symmetry. So let me do it here. What will happen here? There will be a Q1, Q2, Q3 which is symmetric. Because the diagram forces you, it should be a symmetric. If you interchange the object which I put in this box and this box, you do not get anything new. Clear? So similarly here you could view something like it is the symmetric object here and then you add a piece here, or you have an antisymmetric object here and add a piece here. That is called mixed symmetry. I am sure you have done mixed tensors, symmetric tensors, antisymmetric tensors. You can have mixed tensors where some indices will be symmetric, some indices will be antisymmetric, and those are the mixed tensors, right. Similar thing can happen here. But as a diagram, this is the meaning, that there will be a subset which will be, which will have this S1 has no symmetry, S2 and S3 you can make it symmetric, or S2 and S3 you can make it antisymmetric, and write the states. Okay? Yeah. Yes. Both will be? No, if you see here, when I compose this with this, these 2 boxes are symmetric. When I compose this with this, you see that these 2 boxes are symmetric. You can call S1 and S2 symmetric. I just call this as 2 and 3 and that one as 1, but it is not it is because of associative property. But technically you can call, if you want, maybe this is a better notation as far as the diagram is concerned. You have an S1, S3, S2 symmetric and then you add an S3. That is what you did here. S1 and S2 were symmetric and then you added an S3. Okay. If you see here, it is S1 and S2 were antisymmetric, and then to that you added this, which is S1. So this is another way of seeing it. So these 2 have different tensorial properties. Okay. So the next question you can ask is, will proton belong to this or will belong to that, or a linear combination? All these questions starts coming up, One of the ways in which they fix all these things is by somehow getting the magnetic moment result experimentally seen, out of which linear combination gives me the result. That is the way they fix it. We do not know why that linear combination. Nature seems to project one linear combination of these 2 pieces such that your magnetic moment in your experiment can be matched for proton and neutron. Okay. So I do not have any handle which one. I can't say that this is proton, I can't say this is proton, even though they are spin half particles, but a linear combination of it, what linear combination, what coefficients I should choose are all dictated by experiments. But it does not give me anything other than spin 3/2 and spin half. So I play around with a bound state of 3 quarks, three fundamental objects. To understand spin, I should take them to be fundamental objects to belong to SU2 representation. To understand the quark content, I need to see it as a SU3 representation, because I am just working with quark content, which is only the 3 objects, which is UDS, which is sometimes called as a flavors. Okay. Yeah. So, is this clear? Now, what are these dimensions? Can someone tell me for SU3? What are those dimensions? So, this one is dimension is 4 plus 2 plus 2. This is for SU2. Okay. So, what about here? SU3 by your Hooke numerator. This is anyway I can see it to be a trivial representation. So, that is 1. 10, 8, 8 and 1. Is it adding up to 27? 3 into 3 into 3 is 27. 10, 18, 26, 27. So, the Young diagram actually helps you without doing a projector how the breaking happens. You can do the projector by writing the Klebsch-Gordon matrices. Even before you do that, you can say that you can find this breaking. Okay. So, this was a crucial part which Gell-Mann did. The reason why he did, let me get to the slide. Interestingly, our experiment did not have this particle. This omega particle at that time when Gell-Mann was doing his SU3 group to fit in this data, all of these particles had spin 3 by 2. He wanted to fit this data by using SU3 group. When he was trying to do it, he got 10, that is this 10 on the board, but he did not, the experimentalist did not have this omega particle, and he said that you have not detected it, you better go and check for it. It is beautiful actually. Gell-Mann recently passed away. Did you see his profile? You should see his profile, it is very nice. Very simple way of looking at SU3, and he accounted that there should be 10 particles which belongs to an irreducible representation of SU3, whereas only 9 particles or 9 states with spin 3 by 2 were seen in the lab. And interestingly, after 3 years they detected it, they detected that particle. So, that is why he got his Nobel Prize. So, it is very beautiful to see that, completely it may look very mathematical, whatever I was saying is mathematical, but ultimately nature seems to have some kind of a symmetry, and he was able to show it to us. Okay. Is that clear? So, this diagram is sometimes called Decimet diagram, because there are 10 possible states. Which is the highest weight state here? Highest weight will be this corner state, and then you can use all the possible ladder operation of SU3, right, alpha 1, alpha 2 and alpha 3, and you can generate all the 10 states by the SU3 generators. So, this is a irreducible representation of SU3 whose Young diagram is this, and whose dimension can be computed to be 10 dimension. Those 10 are the 10 states of the Decimet of spin 3 by 2 baryons. Why baryons? Baryons are the ones which are composites of 3 quarks. These are all baryons, proton is a baryon, neutron is a baryon, so all of them are baryons, and you can explain from group theory as an irrep, and you can also account for the 9 already present 9 states before when Gell-Mann proposed this, and one more was seen after 3 years and validating that SU3 quark model is the right approach to understand the set of particles which has spin 3 by 2, set of baryons which has spin 3 by 2. Is this clear? Okay. Similarly, the spin half baryons also had a, this is very different from the earlier one. This is another irrep, and this irrep had 8 particles. Okay, and that is your 8 dimension. The spin half baryons, which includes protons, neutrons, belong to a different irrep from this. This irrep was totally symmetric. This irrep is partially symmetric. Okay. So, you can write this as if it is Q1, Q2 is symmetric and Q3 has no symmetry. Similarly, here you can say Q1, Q2 is antisymmetric. Antisymmetric, I am denoting it by a square box. You all know by now what is antisymmetric, symmetric, right. If you interchange the two content, if it is antisymmetric, the wave function will pick up a negative sign. Symmetric means if you interchange, it will remain the same. So, Q1, Q2 and then Q3. Here all of them are antisymmetric. Clear? Why multiply? They are independent spaces, spin space, position space and the flavor space. They are independent space. Only thing is this is totally a fermionic object. The proton is a fermion, right? It is a fermion. So, what you have to remember is that a fermion, which is a bound state of 3 objects, should be totally antisymmetric. If you swap the spin content, flavor content, so some things could be symmetric, some things have to be antisymmetric so that the product remains antisymmetric. So, these are things which you will all do not to violate Pauli's exclusion principle. Okay. So, what I am trying to say is that you could take the spin wave function to be symmetric, flavor wave function to be antisymmetric, plus a linear combination where spin wave function is antisymmetric, flavor wave function is symmetric. All these playing around you can do. Finally, find a linear combination of this total wave function, for which you will find the magnetic moment which is unique. So, there is a lot of mixing going to happen between this and so on. So, I am not going to get into it, but that way you can uniquely pick a combination. Okay. So, as of theory, group theory, it tells you that all the elementary particles, which they call it as elementary, is not exactly elementary. Baryons are composites, and to account for the composites with spin 3 by 2.5, you can allow 3 fundamental objects, and once you allow 3 fundamental objects, you can say that in the flavor space it allows for 3 flavor states, which is SU3, and then you start accounting for this 8-fold path or the octet diagram. Okay. So, the 8-fold path or the octet diagram you can account, and the previous diagram which I showed is a decimate diagram. Okay. So, to summarize, the 2 sets of baryons which I showed you, one as a decimate diagram minus the omega particle initially can be viewed as tensor product of 3 quarks as follows. Okay. So, this we have done it now. Spin 3/2 baryons are 10 of them according to quark model proposed by Gell-Mann, and you can check this dimension which we have already checked. Similarly, mesons are bound states of quarks and antiquarks. Mesons are baryonic or fermionic or bosonic? It is bosonic. It is a bound state of a particle with an antiparticle. Okay. Now, I will leave it to you to see what should be happening and what is happening in the experimental scenario for mesons.